Coming up in this episode,
You know how they say that transformation starts from within? When you can prove it to yourself, this magical alchemy starts to happen in your brain. Any astrologer, even if they give you a little bit of you and you see yourself, you're like, all right, I am okay. I am on the right track. I am safe to be who I really am.
mm,
Yeah.
Without disease, without judgment, without hating yourself, like judging yourself. I mean, that's where all the judgment comes from, right? It comes from yourself.
you are now live from the source with Viki and Alexander. Live your life from the source. Play your cards right.
What's your number? And welcome to another episode of Live from the Source with Viki and Alexander. I'm your host, Viki.
And I'm Alexander. And together, we decode the ancient language of life that was hidden in plain sight as what we've all thought was just a deck of playing cards. But it's actually ancient wisdom that guides us in our lives based on our date of birth. We all have 13 cards that make up our human template. And we are here today with our exciting guest, Dr. Dani.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here with both of you guys. We met briefly about 2 weeks ago and just instant chemistry. I feel like we could talk for hours about, the synchronicities and the code of the universe.
We definitely can. And today, well, let's introduce you a little bit to our audience.
Dr. Dani is born on August 4th, and she is playing the Nine of Diamonds as her birth card and the Nine of Diamonds as her personality card.
Double dose of the nines. And Dr. Dani is a physician astrologer. When she's not delivering babies, she's delivering wisdom. A woman of many talents. She has a unique approach. Maybe it's not unique, but it's definitely a special approach to reading the stars. And I'm sure we're going to get into that. And through her work, she helps individuals decode time, reclaim sovereignty, and align with their authentic creative power. Welcome, Dr. Dani.
Thank you so much. Yay. Yeah, no, my life has been everything but normal. I was always a curious young child. Always wanted to know why. My parents even commented on that. Can you just stop asking why? um, and everything interested me. It was hard for me to find out what I'm supposed to do in this world.
Mhm.
I knew that something was guarding me, protecting me, a lucky streak, if you will. I always felt like I had, a horseshoe in my rear end. It's just, even when I would try to get in trouble, I just couldn't.
Oh.
And I always thought that was strange. I said, why? Why is it like that? And I also realized too that whenever I put my mind to something, because you're curious about these things. Well, how did I actually make that work? I started here and it was absolutely different, and now I'm here and it's exactly what I wanted. Wow, how do you? So I was always trying to figure out how I broke that down and what makes me have the ability to do that. And I realize everybody does. They just have, they just make choices. And so I was still like, I just don't know where I'm supposed to put myself in order to help the most people, in order to serve me or my family or my goals in the highest possible way. And so I just stuck with the program. I was like, all right, I'm going to just go to school and do as well as I can and be interested in whatever I'm interested in. And of course, my parents were always like, sure, whatever you want to do. So I came home one day from school after changing my major 3 times. I think I was a math major at this time. And I said, I'm gonna do theater. I want to study theater. And they were like, okay. And it was something that I really felt strongly about. I had taken one history of theater course, and it was everything from Oedipus to Shakespeare. And it just fascinated me, these stories. And so I said, all right, I want to be a theater major. Plus there were really cute guys in the theater program. And, I was like, why not? This feels good. So let's go for it. And so I did really well. I got to my junior year and I realized that as a young, beautiful woman, I was going to have to compromise sort of my values, my boundaries in order to have any success with theater. That's just how it was in the 90s, And so I barely scratched by, I barely graduated. It was one of those Me Too moments with the professor and the director of the department. So I managed to graduate, but then I was still like, well, what am I going to do? Because I definitely don't want to do acting. So I waited tables for a little while. And that's when I met my husband, who I'm still married to, like 30 years later.
Nice.
And we decided to go into computers. So we went to computer school and we got our associate's degrees, and we did pretty well there for a while, but I just couldn't. I was like, this is not, I felt suppressed. I was sitting in a cubicle under a fluorescent light every day, just looking at a computer screen, bored as hell. So I said, all right, well, what am I going to do now? And then I said, I'm going to go into medicine. I was 26 or 27 at the time. And everybody that knew me was like, no way. I was like, watch me.
That's a big
hold my cigarette. I'm doing it. So I went back to school and I studied science. I studied everything that I didn't do well in college. And I made my resume better. I got the experience I needed, and they let me into medical school. So here I was like, wow, I get to do this. And so for me, medical school was much more awesome because I didn't start right away. I started at age 30 instead of age 23. And so just dissecting cadavers, learning about the science, learning about the human body. Awesome. And then I fell in love with the female, the woman, from the cell to the psyche. And I didn't really like male patients that much. I didn't really like children that much. So for me, it was, taking care of the woman. Well, hey, I'm a woman. If I can understand everything about how I work, then I can help women too. So residency, specialization. And then in 2012, I graduated from residency. 2008 was medical school, and I moved to Texas. I didn't know anybody here. We didn't know anybody, but we were like, let's live by the beach. So I joined this awesome practice, and I, always restless, always wanting to learn more. I was like, okay, so I made it. This isn't all that great. It's fun, but I need a challenge. I need to figure out what's the bigger picture, what's the bigger theme behind why people come in, why they're sick, why they don't feel good, why they're depressed. What is that? And, I knew about lunar cycles. We always knew about the new moon and the full moon on labor and delivery. It's just kind of part of the job. And so we were already tracking lunar cycles. And then, of course, Mercury retrograde would come around every so often and mess up orders and mess up communications and mess up like surgeries. Just all kinds of crazy stuff happens when Mercury's retrograde.
Would you notice that in the hospital? People would take note? They would take note of it? Oh,
they wouldn't, but I would. And I would say stuff and people would be like, whatever, like they just weren't into it.
Right.
So that became kind of like my sort of, intellectual curiosity. And I was also very fascinated in cutting edge physics, mathematical concepts. And so for me, it was just, when I was done with work and I did my day at the beach surfing, I would study. I didn't really watch TV. And then COVID came, and then I realized I really didn't like my situation at all. Like just being stuck in this position of somebody who has to grind out 50 patients a day, deliver 2 or 3 babies a day, do 4 or 5 surgeries a day, and stay up all night 5 times a month. Like this was a lot, especially as I was getting older, into my mid 40s, late 40s. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I just started studying astrology. And then when I realized that I was not a Leo, it changed everything for me. I mean, this was the existential moment of all existential moments. I took the Night Sky app and I pointed it to the sky on my birthday. And I was expecting to see the sun in Leo. And it wasn't. It was in constellation Cancer. And I thought it was broken. I thought I was crazy. I was like, I checked my birth certificate. Like, yeah. Okay, my birthday is August 4th. Why is the sun in Cancer? Everyone is telling me the sun's in Leo. And it was one of the most existential, like I grew up Catholic. I fell out with the church. Nothing like this. This was a complete like reversal of entire paradigms. I was like, why are we doing astrology if it's not pointing to the actual sky? And so that began the journey to the person that you see now. I had to get out of the daily grind of medicine. I still work in medicine. I still take call. I still do telemed patients. In fact, I just finished a clinic, but now I do readings. Now I teach people about the real sky. Now I have a message and a YouTube channel. And what I have found just in my own personal growth and development was accelerated like 1,000 times simply by aligning myself to my actual sky. So feeling always restless, always needing to find the next thing. What am I good at? What am I supposed to do here? What's my legacy? All clicked into place the moment I had my astrology. Man, I wish I'd had it back in, 1995.
Well, say more about that provocative statement. What exactly, tell us more about that alignment process and what transpired for you.
Well, so first of all, I realized that I'm not a Leo sun, so I don't have to always be out in the public. In fact, it never really resonated with me, which is why I was not an astrologer in the first place. When I realized that my sun was in Cancer, my Mars is in Leo, my moon's in Capricorn Aquarius. I was born on a full moon. My Mercury's over here. Like all of these archetypes that have been ingrained into our subconscious since the moment we were born began to become alive. And there's a concept of the high table. You might hear that a lot. The high table is the zodiac. It is the two-dimensional slice of our three-dimensional sky where the planets sit and they have relationship with one another. And they have different energies in different spaces. And those energies, while a lot of people brush them off, it matters. And I think there is, and you guys tell me if you feel this too. I feel like there is two paths in our reality, right? There's the one that feels very artificial, very contrived, very aligned with the message. And then there is a unique reality, an individual reality where some people match pretty good with the narrative anyway, because that's how they're made. But some people are so uniquely made with such unique gifts and talents, experiences, traumas that they can teach other people that they are not aligned with the program. And so when they feel that resistance, that misalignment, that disresonance, they feel like something's wrong with them. They feel dis-ease, right? One of the most diabolical things that I even see in medicine is perimenopausal women in their 40s coming to me saying, what's wrong with me? Their labs are normal. They've got the perfect life. They're doing everything they can to maintain their health, yet something's wrong. Something's wrong. And I'm like, nothing's wrong with you. You're going through an aging process and no one told you. The diabolical part is nobody told you that you had to change the way you were living to match how you're feeling. You don't have to align to that supposed to track. You don't have to align to the program. You can do whatever you want. And I've always done that with my life. Every time I've gone with the program was when I've felt the most dis-ease in my body, in my mind, and in my soul. So if you're following tropical and it kind of resonates and you're not into it, the reason is because you don't know your true sky. I promise you, if I showed you your true sky, you would be blown away. You would be like, why didn't I know about this when I was a kid?
Just for our audience, let me pause you for a moment. Are you talking about what would be called sidereal astrology? Is that the same thing as what you're talking about?
Sure. I mean, sidereal means of the stars.
Okay.
Tropical means of the seasons.
Okay.
And the reason people resonate with tropical is because the angles between all the planets stay exactly the same. Oh. So, for example, if you're born on a full moon, it's a full moon in both systems. Okay. But where is the sun and where is the moon? Does a Capricorn Cancer axis mean something different for the native than, say, a Sagittarius and Gemini axis? It does. I'm here to tell you it does. I have never had anybody go, wow, my tropical was more accurate. Because you can be accurate with the alignments of your planets, but when you add the real sky behind it, constellational, sidereal, whatever you want to call it, then you add precision. You see the difference? It's like when you're trying to hit a bullseye, for example, you want to hit the middle circle and you want all of your arrows to hit the middle circle. That's accuracy and precision. You can have precision but not be accurate, and you can be accurate without precision. But true sky, real sky, constellational astrology gives it all to you, I think.
And so what I'm hearing you say, and I'll just see if I can say it back to you and you tell me if this sounds right. What I'm hearing you say is that when you look at your true sky astrology, it helps you to clarify precisely what it is that you need to focus on and what your template really is.
It can. A lot of times what it simply does is recognizes and affirms what you've known all along,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
You're looking for someone to see you, something to see you, because what you're trying to fit yourself into doesn't see you. And when you're finally seen, then it's like this magical alchemy starts to happen in your brain. You know how they say that transformation starts from within?
Mhm.
When you can prove it to yourself, when someone else sees you. I mean, not just me, there's other constellational astrologers too. Any astrologer, even if they give you a little bit of you and you see yourself, you're like, all right, I am okay. I am on the right track. I am safe to be who I really am.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
without disease, without judgment, without hating yourself, like judging yourself. I mean, that's where all the judgment comes from, right? It comes from yourself.
Mhm.
You know, like so my whole dilemma when I first really fell in love with astrology was, I'm a doctor. People are going to judge me because they're going to say, why is somebody so smart dabbling in such a silly thing?
Mm.
Or the astrologers would be like, because they don't trust the establishment. Why is it doctor trying to understand astrology? And I will tell you, there's actually more information and knowledge that you can get from astrology than you can from medicine. Medicine actually is a subset of astrology, and it broke itself off. You had to know astrology in order to get into medical school.
When was that?
Before 1660, before the mid 1600s. Like that was a prerequisite.
Huh.
How did you move through judgment? How did you move through that in yourself?
Well, when I realized how big how deep the field of astrology actually is, I mean, it's psychology, it's medicine, it's planning. It's amazing. When I realized that, then I began to feel like confident, especially once I got better at my own astrology. When I felt confident in that, then I was like, yeah, this can be merged.
Right.
And there's nobody else out there doing that. And so I said, well, then, all right, let me really step outside of my comfort zone. Instead of just performing a role, which is what the Leo energy always taught me, perform your best. Now, like, be you and just do you and see what happens. and the results have been really amazing. My marriage is better. My clinical encounters are better. I make more money. People are interested. They're flocking to the message. And so it's just really exciting to finally stop trying to fit into something and to just be. And I think astrology was a big part of that.
Wow.
Well, I'm fascinated by how you're saying it was a bigger paradigm shift for you than leaving the Catholic Church. That's quite a statement.
Also, I'm really curious how, even when you talk about like your childhood, it sounds like you really innately had a belief about yourself. Like you believed in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There was an authentic, really like a confidence in yourself. Is that true? Like that you really,
I think I give that props to my mother. Always
Okay.
a very independent woman, very hard worker. Always said, whatever you want to do, that's what you should do.
Okay.
And yeah, they were super supportive. They still are. They're still together. They're so cute. They've been married like 55 years or something like that. Yeah.
Wow. So you had that strong base of support to give you that belief in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I like what you said about how you knew of yourself early on that you had good luck in your life. We'll get there when we talk more about your cards, but that is the high side of the Nine of Diamonds energy. It's that you have that synchronicity, magical good fortune. But I don't often hear that from people who are born to play a Nine of Diamonds. I usually hear more of like they grew up with a victim story. But you grew up with the positive side, the positive awareness of yourself with the good luck and good fortune.
Yeah, but it's been a journey. I mean, I tried to test the fates. I was a very precocious young woman. I mean, I did what I want when I wanted, despite whatever my parents told me. And so I bumped into things, was made the example, a lot of creative output, a lot of energy, and I always felt trapped. And so when someone told me what to do, I was like, even if it was good for me, I was like, I'm going to do what I want. But I always like I owned it and I always got out of it if I had the issue. And so now what I do, when I still have that, I still feel that, especially God at the hospital, working for a corporation, I still feel it. But instead of bucking the system and doing whatever I want to become an example to others, I channel that elsewhere. I channel that into my creative output and, exercise and taking care of certain things. So it's definitely something you learn over time, how to manage.
I'm so curious. So you're saying that you're not a Leo based on the true.
Well, where my sun is, my Mars is in Leo. So, Mars is your drive. Mars's path to enlightenment is to enact the will of the creator. Okay. So, a very persistent Mars is typically very healthy and lucky in the sign of Leo. In tropical, it's in Virgo, which is a very disgruntled and sort of rigid Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, Mars is also your fight or your fornicate energy. So always a very high libido, very, creative output, wanting to be seen for my creative output, even exhibitionist in some cases, I won't get into that, but like that makes sense to me because when I feel good about something, I have no problem just being myself. But when I was putting sun in Leo, which is how people see me, it's not resonant because I am actually a quiet person. I like my solitude. I love to sit and wonder, and I love to take care of people. Like when I walk into a room, like the first thing I notice is, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?" Also, if you look in Egyptian mythology, cancers, the scarab beetle, they would put their young in a ball of dung and just roll it across the desert. So it represented bringing Ra back into the sky. So it's a midwife energy, right? I was like, this fits.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's so many things.
Yeah, I love it. And I like how you say in your bio, which we read, that you are delivering star wisdom. I really like that phrase. What's your favorite part about delivering star wisdom?
I love it when people are like, have the same reaction I did when they find their true sky. I'll do a reading for someone that's just curious, and it's not one-on-one. It's completely cold. I give them like a little podcast, record maybe an hour to 90 minutes going through their chart and a little bit of their cards also and their numerology. And 9 times out of 10, I get, wow, jaw on the floor. Amazing. And I'm not saying that I'm a super intuitive. I mean, maybe I do just from working with people all these years, but it's the science of astrology.
Sure.
In the real sky. So I love that. I love it when people know that they're seen. And when I read, I see the best version of you. If I don't know you, I look at your chart. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. That's a strength. Holy smokes, look at that. Or if I see a challenge, I'll just say what the first thing that comes to my mind. And more often than not, if it's not like the actual thing, then it's really close. And they'll send me these heartfelt messages. And I love that work. I do. I also love teaching people. I love it when they want to bring astrology into their own work. Because you can do it for timing. You can time it for business. You can time it for creative endeavors. So it's really fun to just help people do that.
I love it. And I like how you already said it, but you're blending the science with the service. You found a way to make science much more meaningful, and it's like blending together your passions in how you're doing what you do.
I still do this whenever I do deliver a baby. I don't go into the parent's face and say it's a this or whatever. I just go and do my note, but I do check the astrology. I'm like, okay, so that was rising. This is their sun. This is their moon. And I'll take a little peek, and it's always the current sky. We're always reading natal charts of the current sky as babies are being born every moment of the day.
Wow. It's pretty mind-blowing. It's kind of how I felt when I learned about the cards, a similar reaction of like having confirmation and having it be mind-blowing for me to learn this system, similar. So it's really exciting to me to hear you talk about this. And it sounds so I want to know.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I'll
want
just
to
give you
know.
I'll just
Sign
give
me
you a
up.
cool let me just give you a cool example. And
Sure.
Yes, we love that.
this is like your Jupiter, right? Okay. So Jupiter, and we work with cycles. When we actually look at the sky, we can work with cycles because we know where they are in their cycle. And everything is a circle that is spiraling, it is spinning. So it never comes back to the same spot. You'll have a sun cycle, but it's never quite to the same spot. Everything's
Okay.
always shifting, always moving. We're in a giant clock. So when you're born, your Jupiter is in a certain spot in your sky. So let's say, for example, mine's in Aquarius. So my Jupiter sits in constellation Aquarius the day I was born. Every 12 years, it returns to that spot. Every time it crosses my ascendant, which is in Taurus, I change jobs. Every single time.
And you track that so you can
I
see
did.
Yeah.
And this past transit was back in 2024 when the actual Jupiter was moving through the actual constellation of Taurus. I went from the clinic to a hospitalist, and I focused my energy on my astrology business. 12 years prior, I graduated residency and started my clinic job. 12 years before that, I decided that I was going to go back to medical school and started taking the prerequisites. I mean, it was just literally clockwork. Every 12 years, because it's on my ascendant. It's moving through my second house right now, which is really nice. And it's trine to my natal Jupiter. And there's abundance there. When you have Jupiter trine Jupiter, there's expansion. It's second and 10th houses, which is, business and public image. And it's all aligning for me. So you can use the current sky too to help you plan for what's coming just by watching the cycles. I always laugh how people get excited when the full moons are coming. I'm like, did you go back and look at the new moon? Because if you started there, the full moons are awesome.
Mhm.
They're just the natural expansion of lunar energy. But if you come into it unconsciously, then you get surprises. So
I have a question for you. Is it true for everybody that Jupiter makes that 12-year cycle?
I think so. I mean, it may manifest differently for people depending on
Yeah.
what you've got going on in your own chart. I will say that whenever Jupiter travels through your first house, which is right after the ascendant crossing, expect to gain 5 to 10 pounds that year because the first house is your body and Jupiter expands. So if you're not watching what you're eating, you can overeat when Jupiter moves through your first house. And that followed the job shift because I was constantly running around all over the place. I was actually underweight.
Wow.
And when I switched jobs, I put back on my normal weight. So yeah, that can happen.
I'm so curious. I mean, I've dabbled here and there in astrology, but to your point, it never really resonated. I like it. I found it interesting, but it never grabbed me. And the cards did, and that's what I decided I wanted to teach. But I hear you. I get it. The astrology never grabbed me. And maybe if I knew my true chart, it would grab me. Be like, here, this is
Right. Yeah.
It might.
I
It
agree.
might.
Yeah. One of my experiences with astrology, like, I followed it a little bit. And then when I met Alexander and he told me all about the cards, and then I went home and looked him up in my astrology book. I had this huge, massive relationship astrology book. And it said we were like the worst match run for the hills, like the worst you could possibly imagine.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the worst.
This billion-dollar industry is
Yeah.
irresponsibly saying that Neptune is in Aries right now. Neptune is not in Aries. Why are they saying it's in Aries? Because Neptune is crossing the equinox point. That's where the sun is when we are on equal seasons. Now, you tell me, does Neptune care that much about the seasons of the Earth? I don't think so. I mean,
Wow.
you might be able to use it for the seasons of your life. Most really good astrologers, especially when they're using it for things like finance and health, don't even interpret the sky. They just use the houses. They just use the angles. So
Okay.
I think if you added the real sky on there, it would resonate for a lot more people.
And
So yeah,
since
billion-dollar industry giving people advice on Neptune moving into Aries when it's all it is a calendar. It's like saying Neptune's moving into February.
Okay.
That's
Wow.
all you're saying. Or
And as someone like me, I don't follow astrology, but I guess what I'm hearing you say is the people who do, they're hearing a dogmatic assertion, a little bit like the Catholic Church, that could F them up, could get them all twisted up inside and give them the wrong guidance, the wrong direction. I mean, that's kind of what you're saying. Yeah.
yes, that's it. That's it. It matters. It matters. If you tell billions of people to prepare for Neptune and Aries, and they create that, they co-create that, and then the rest of us are like, what? And what happened? It doesn't. It's not in your field when you're not doing that. That's the magic of it. That's when you realize you are the co-creator, and a lot of times astrology confirms that for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I'm thinking right now in this moment that could be a reason why it just never resonated for me because
I think that's why it fell out of the sciences, because it didn't continue to align itself with the actual sky.
Now I will say I have spoken to a sidereal astrologer before talking to you. He didn't, well, maybe he did call it true sky, but it was sidereal. And what I found really interesting, and this is what I want to transition and talk to you about, because I know you know the cards as well, is that somehow the tropical astrological planetary rulers, it still works for the card system. When I've tried to use the sidereal sign and apply the planetary ruler from the sidereal to the cards, it doesn't quite match up, which is very interesting to me. Have you done this? Now we're talking for our audience. We're going advanced. We're going
Okay.
deep. I know you can go there, Dr. Dani, but I just give a little caveat for our audience. We're talking about calculating the planetary ruler for whatever is your birth card. And for example, in the tropical astrology system, you're in, as you mentioned, the sign of Leo, which would mean that your ruler is the same as your birth card, the nine of diamonds. In the sidereal, if true sky, if you're in Cancer, it would mean your ruler is the jack of
Different.
clubs.
Yep.
Have you explored that more for yourself and figured out for yourself how that maps?
Well, to be honest with you, I've never heard of the planetary ruler card in the
Oh,
system. I'm really not that familiar as you guys are in
okay.
depth with it. What I know of is the sort of the master life spread and the master spirit spread. I am
Okay.
familiar with those. And I am familiar with what cards are aligned to which day of the Gregorian calendar. So
Okay.
that's about all I know. And the interpretations that I gather from them are from the it'sallinthecards.com website. What I have noticed is that when I take the master life path card, so for example, the nine of diamonds,
Mhm.
and I take that chart and I put it next to the spirit spread, that there is a corresponding card. And for me, that's the queen of diamonds. And I was told that the queen of diamonds is sort of what I'm working towards. And it's like, it's generosity, it's building things, it's like being the master of your physical world, from the nine of diamonds, which is sort of being expressive and creative and independent. Because when I see nine of diamonds, I also see nine of pentacles in the tarot, which is, the card of independence. So there's that syncretism there that you can hold the cards too. And then when I think of nines, I think of the ninth house. I think of Sagittarius. I think of Jupiter. So that's what I think about when I hear
Okay.
of the nine of diamonds. And I forgot which planetary line it's in. I think it's Mars Uranus, if I'm not mistaken. And then, so what I found for people is it's accurate to about 65 to 90%, where that life path card, like the nine of diamonds, for example, is very resonant with sort of the south node, or Rahu in astrology, and that the spirit card is very resonant with the north node.
Okay. And for our listeners,
Yes, I was just going to say.
the spirit card is what we would call the soul challenge card. It's the same, just different
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
different nomenclature for those following along who are familiar with our show. The Queen of Diamonds is your soul challenge card. Do you want to say something?
I just wondered also to clarify South Node and North Node, like, yeah.
Yeah, so
They're
the south
termed.
node, that's where the moon's ecliptic and the sun's ecliptic cross one another. So it's not actually like a physical body; it's a calculated point. And
Okay.
when the sun is there, that's when we have eclipses. So the
Okay.
sun is approaching the moon's north node in Aquarius in the coming week. So that those two will get together, we'll have a solar eclipse. Now, the north node in a natal chart signifies sort of like what you desire to do. It's like what you wake up and you want to do and you got to do every single day. It's the head of the snake, or Rahu in Vedic astrology. So it's like the thing that you want. The
Oh,
south node is kind of where you've been, your patterns, what you're really comfortable with. It's K2, it's spiritual. So my south node's in Taurus. So Taurus is money, things, stuff, your physical world, the here and the now. And so my past life, my comfortable energy is in the here and the now. Like that's easy,
Mm.
easy.
okay.
You want this to happen? I'll make this happen. My challenge is in Ophiuchus. So my north node's in Ophiuchus, which is the 13th sign, which isn't even in tropical, by the way. So I am driven towards the spiritual, towards the ascendant energy.
Okay.
Like when I realized Ophiuchus and Taurus, I was like, this could be my last trip here, the way these are positioned.
Mm.
Because the galactic center, Ophiuchus, the 13th sign, the ascended master, breaking the karmic wheel, that's my destiny. Right. So the Queen of Diamonds, I don't know how that relates to it. That's where it might be a little bit inaccurate for me, or maybe it is a challenge.
It's I would say this is now I've been looking at this myself for a long, long time. I think that there's how do I say it? It's not a direct correspondence when I look at these systems. Well, let's say when I compare the source cards to what someone reads in their human design or their Vedic chart or their gene keys or their true sky or their tropical, whatever the other methodology may be, I've found that it's not a one-to-one mapping of like this one thing means that one thing over there.
Mm.
But what I've noticed is that when we take the overall picture, there's a remarkable synchronicity in what the systems may reveal. And so, for example, you're born to play the nine of diamonds, and the nine is about completions. You're going to the next level. So you mentioned that for you looking at Ophiuchus, am I saying that right?
Ophiuchus.
Ophiuchus.
Yes.
Like that gives you that information of like, oh, this may be, I'm ending something, I'm completing a cycle. We can see that simply from your birth card of the nine of diamonds, that you're here to end something and complete a cycle. So it's not exactly, again, a one-to-one mapping, but the same resonant message would come through. This is what I've noticed, because I've tried to map it exactly. If you have this, then it means this. And I haven't seen that that's possible, but I have seen that when you do it well and when you're really in it and you're leaning into the message, you get the same message, roughly speaking.
And isn't that interesting?
Isn't it? Yeah.
These are systems of magic that I think we've manifested to find ourselves, like clues writing on the wall, clues we've given ourselves to find the map.
Do you think we manifested them ourselves, or do you think they were given in some way?
Oh, I think we did it.
Okay.
Because we all have access to all knowledge. And the inspiration to channel the cards in their order with their given meanings, with their elemental values, with their numerological values came from somewhere that we all have access to. And sometimes people can come up with sort of the same idea in different places in the different timelines. And it's just the 100 monkey theory, where like mice can do better on the same genetic line can do better on a maze if the first group does it first. Like, have you seen that? Yeah, that kind of thing. I mean, it's just like that.
Well, the calculus was invented simultaneously by two different people on two different parts of the planet. It came to them at the same time. Yes, we can tap into the noosphere. That's another word for that. We can download information directly. I agree with you. And I also tend to think that there's a givenness, especially of these cards in my own research, going back to the original mythology of the Sumerians, the tablets of destiny, which bear an uncanny resemblance to these cards. And in those times, there was no papyrus, so the information would have been on tablets. And they say they were a gift to them of their gods.
There's a reason all this stuff is coming back.
I agree.
Now's the time.
Now's the time. And so you're born to play the 9 of diamonds. You are a paradigm shifter. And here you are doing that.
To the nines, may I say.
Yeah.
To the nines.
You're here to change the paradigm. And that's exactly what you're talking about. How do we change the paradigm and how do we see the truth?
Now, I mean, what I find really interesting, this is what I was alluding to before when I was asking about identifying with the Leo versus the Cancer as your sun sign, is that, as a Leo, you'd play, as I mentioned in the beginning, that this is your birth card and your personality card. And
the 9 of diamonds.
I could see that 9 of diamonds, like you are just here as a leader. You are just taking us to the next level in what you value most in your life, what truly matters to you. And then as a Cancer, the personality card being the Jack of Clubs. I mean, I've got to say, like,
works.
I really see that as you. I really see you playing the Jack of Clubs. The Jack of Clubs is the generator of knowledge, and it's a very independent energy, playful, independent, youthful energy, and just generating knowledge, new knowledge, coming with your knowledge and doing it so beautifully. So, I mean, I really, it's fascinating.
I love that. I love that. Jacks can be the 11th house.
And it's the number 11. Yeah.
Right. It's the 11th house, Aquarius energy, which is also like new knowledge, inspiration, invention, those kind of things.
Yes.
Yeah. Very cool.
When I was curious to talk to you about the air quotes planetary ruling card, which we call the personality card, because that is a discussion that, as I mentioned, I had with one sidereal astrologer previously. And we came to an interesting conclusion, which is that whatever your sidereal card would be, your true sky card, which for you would be the Jack of Clubs, that would be, that's like your exit point out of the matrix. That's how you get out of the matrix. That's how he and I have thought of it, where tropical is like the matrix, you're in the matrix, and then true sky is how you see the truth and get clarity on what the real resonance is for you. So then in the cards, whatever your sidereal card is, that's your exit point. And so for you, it's through knowledge.
I like that.
That's what we came to.
Exit out of the matrix.
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying a lot I'm going
I need
deep.
to know, so explain that more.
Where the tropical astrology is representative of the human matrix, as you mentioned, the human seasons, and the planets don't care much about what the human seasons are, because why would they? So there's a human matrix that we construct based on the tropical astrological system. And it's, we could say, reflective of the ways in which we are not fully authentic as human beings, that it's actually reflective of what is trapping us and keeping us locked into a dogmatic approach that is not fully resonant and authentic. That's the matrix. The tropical astrology can be seen that way, according to my sidereal astrologer friend. And then whatever is your sidereal card is your exit point out of that. So this is just a way to map sidereal astrology with the cards and see how they intersect.
No, I like that. And we can't just gloss over the point that you just made, like, trapped. Are we trapped? Like, so then you, with astrology, you go deep into, like the Hermetic and the occult literature to like say, what do you mean trapped? How am I trapped? Like, who's trapping me? That's my response. And because I've never felt trapped. I've simply said, okay, there's a lot of people going with this option that is not me. I just don't, it just doesn't resonate. It doesn't make sense. And when you get into why do they do that? There is this co-creative energy that the collective has. Are there people that are masters in influencing people to help them co-create? Absolutely. But I don't think that you are necessarily trapped. I think the moment that you wake up,
yes,
right, you see it for what it is, and then you go through your process of like
the
saying,
trap is only the ignorance. It's the ignorance.
Will we trap ourselves?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I think. I think so, because, and the reason I think that is because when you have the gnosis of that 13 energy, okay, that I am a creator God, that I am that powerful, then you go into, so for me, like my first exposure to sort of the spiritual energy was through yoga, learning about the chakras and the nadis and kundalini and all of that energy. Like once you start like working your body into all of this, then everything really becomes sort of high stakes, because when you can use your power, like maybe let's say up to your solar chakra, you've got this world down. It's fine. You can create, you can destroy, you can make things happen, but you are still controllable either by bribery, by brutality, by whatever ways people control people. People can still control you. But if you've got the gnosis, that gnosis that climbs into the heart chakra, where you have that Christ compassion energy, where when I look at you, I'm looking at myself, and vice versa, where we're all one, just sort of individualized fractals of divine source. When that gnosis opens up for you, you can't be lied to anymore. Nor can you lie. You can't lie to yourself. So there's a lot of stuff that, you have to work on with that. But then you have access to that field of all knowing, the Akashic record, visions, and directly to source. You don't need a religion to tell you that. You know. That's why they call it gnosis, Gnosis. So that to me is breaking out of the matrix. You created it for yourself because you are a powerful creator. Yeah. And you want to learn the rules of the road before you open it up all the way.
Well, we co-created it also because we just played along. Like growing up, we just played along. Like everybody's doing this, and that's how we were raised. Yeah. Unless we were raised with enlightened parents, we were raised in that. And I just played along. Like, oh, okay, that's it. Until I went on my own long journey to have that realization that you're describing.
Yep. Be interesting to see where your focus is and what's happening there.
I'm curious. We'll talk about that offline. Maybe we can set that up.
Yeah.
I love to learn, and I have found exactly what you're talking about, that clarity, the resonance, to be seen, to be known, that there is that soul level, I would say, validation. And it's the same thing we see when we do readings for people and read their cards for them. It's the same feedback that you're talking about, that there's, and it can be tears coming out of, a total stranger is telling you, here's your life's purpose, here's what you're good at, and here's your challenges. And that is so meaningful for people. It's so necessary.
Yep.
You are a wealth of wisdom. Really. I'm curious, going back to Nine of Diamonds, on the low side, the Nine of Diamonds can really experience a lot of tragedy, go into dark places, go down. So if you look at the pit pattern, and for those that are listening at home, if you can just pull out a deck of cards from your drawer, dust it off, look at the Nine of Diamonds, look at the pit pattern, the patterning of the diamond. It's actually a ladder, and you can go up and down this ladder, right? So transcendence, going up, letting go, and then also going down and down and down and down into the darkness of tragedy. Does that resonate for you? Have you had experiences like that before in your life?
Not really, no. Only if I've sort of asked for it.
Right.
Like, yep, I stepped into this one.
Right.
Yeah. No, I've always been like, I always kind of go with my gut. It's a body intuition thing. Mm-hmm. And this is another neat example about the difference between true sky sidereal, real sky astrology versus tropical. My tropical ascendant is Gemini. Mm-hmm. So my chart ruler is Mercury, that could make sense on the surface. But I always feel things in my body first. Like when my heart palpitates, I go, what are you telling me? When my gut twists, what are you telling me? When I feel a tingle on my scalp, I feel aroused. I'm like, what is that?
Yes.
always inquiring on that, and a lifetime of doing that. I don't really go places that give me tragedy. Will there be tragedy later? Maybe. I don't know, but I've never really felt like, the world's against me.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I mean, and you just said a lifetime. So like you're doing this when you're younger as well, like trusting your bodily instincts, which is totally the Nine of Diamonds.
Yep.
That is, it's all about gut instincts for the Nine of Diamonds. Diamonds are about the physical body, the physical instinct.
Somehow you've just known how to play your cards right.
You've known really incredibly well how to play your cards. And as you mentioned, your upbringing and supportive parents. I think that's really wonderful.
I can't tell you how many times we see someone born to play a Nine of Diamonds and they don't know how to trust their gut instincts.
They're completely disconnected from their body, their gut instincts. They experience a tremendous amount of tragedy. Things are always happening to them
that are wrong.
There's a victim mentality and that kind of thing. It's interesting when I asked, I had a feeling you were going to say no. I was like, you just keep like climbing up the ladder. Like you just keep transcending and that's how I'm seeing it, seeing you. It's really inspiring.
I also, I guess I see it in medicine. I see a lot of tragedy. Maybe that satisfies that aspect of the Nine of Diamonds.
Right.
Because, what I do is women's health and birth, which sounds, lovely. It is lovely. Babies are lovely, but, a lot of times it doesn't go that way. We have death, we have bleeding, we have trauma, we have, I've been in.
So you do have that in your field, but it doesn't attach to you personally.
It's completely
you're around it,
compartmentalized. Yeah,
you're witnessing it.
You're a witness.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Literally a witness of it, and that is to me the highest expression of the Nine of Diamonds. It's an expression of transcendence. And it's no accident that a lot of our spiritual teachers, air quotes again, were born to play the Nine of Diamonds, like Eckhart Tolle, Wayne Dyer, Nine of Diamonds. Nine of Diamonds, when you play it well, you become a witness of the physical, and it doesn't attach to you. You transcend it. And then you show others how to transcend as well, which is what you're doing in your work.
You know what else is so fun? Is that my astrological clients tell me way more about their stuff than the actual patients do. It's kind of funny, about their personal life and their trauma and things that have happened to them. It's amazing.
That too, you're a witness of trauma and tragedy in that sense as well. And it's another, as Viki already said, it's a beautiful expression. And I'm still a student of these cards, so I really am learning, like, oh, you can have Nine of Diamonds life path and not necessarily personally have tragedy, but you witness it.
And you guys did mention that my card was your soul challenge. So I'm curious. I'm curious, like how are you kind of grappling with that as a soul challenge card, the Nine of Diamonds? Like, were you fearing it? And then maybe seeing
it shows up as a challenge.
It shows up as a challenge for me in my physical body. So my whole life up until more recently, I don't know, I guess the past 10, 15 years, I disconnected from my physical body. I had no relationship with my physical body in a positive way of like listening to the wisdom of my body. I would be angry at my body for a lot of physical issues I had growing up, a lot of like period problems. And I mean, you name it, stomach problems, digestive problems. I mean, it was just, always dealing with things like that, not being able to eat a lot of foods. And so I was just angry about it. Like, just why is this happening to me? Like tragic, why have I been, how do I have this body that's doing these things? And so it's been a process of really honoring and acknowledging my body and appreciating my body, that my body is so wise and wonderful. And it's been a complete game changer, So yeah, that's how it has shown up for me, physical in my body.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Which would be the kind of basic definition of the low side of the Nine of Diamonds, to have the low physical experience and have a lot of stuff, tragedy or difficulty or disease in the physical. And again, it sounds like you transcended that, and you had a lucky and a blessed path where you were able to step right into the higher side of the Nine of Diamonds.
Wow, that's amazing. I never really knew the dark side of it.
Yeah. In my life path, the Nine of Diamonds is my Saturn. So we have a life path of 13 cards, which you alluded to earlier. And in my life path, the Nine of Diamonds is my Saturn card. So it's my teacher. And it has been true. And even before I found the cards, I really struggled with gluten. I didn't even know what the word gluten was when I first heard that word.
Wow.
Glue, like what? Glue? I didn't even know. And this was back before there were any Whole Foods around. And I found out that I was allergic to this thing called gluten, and I had to take it out of my diet completely, where I ate cereal for breakfast, a sandwich for lunch, and pasta for dinner. And then I have to completely radically change my diet if I want to get healthy in my gut diamonds also. So it has definitely been a process for me of learning how to listen to the physicality of my body and rise above any of the lower expressions in my physical body and challenges in my physical body.
So what would you give, like if you had a new person, totally new to all of this, and you said, you're Nine of Diamonds, and they kind of gave you all of the things that were going on in the Nine of Diamonds, what would you tell them? What would you say would be like the best advice to
Like
those people?
a brand new person who's born to play the Nine of Diamonds and
Yeah.
they're just learning for the first time. Well, usually, and you are an exception to this, but usually, and I've never seen it otherwise, the person has a history of feeling wronged by life, like they're a victim of life itself.
Right. So
They're
what
kind of
advice would you give them then? Like, how would they
that
overcome that?
this is your journey to learn how to rise above that victim perspective, and that in fact everything is happening to you to stimulate your growth, to stimulate you to transcend, to stimulate you to rise above. And not only that, but as a soul, you chose your cards to play. You came in wanting this path. You wanted to climb Mount Everest. You didn't want to just play a 4 diamonds where you could be in a box. You wanted that 9 because you wanted to go to the pinnacle. And all of these experiences are all challenges to challenge you to rise above and rise above and rise above. So if you can shift your perspective and start looking at it that way, then instead of feeling like a victim of your fate, you'll see that you've been, and again, you chose the whole thing to begin with, you've been stimulating yourself to transcend and grow.
I love that. That's beautiful.
It's a shift of perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I guess I just naturally compartmentalized by doing the work that I do. I've often wondered, like, why do I still have to be in this? I don't need to see the gore anymore. I don't need to be at the bedside of death anymore. Please help me. you know? And it persists. And so maybe that's it. Maybe it's what fuels the or feeds the dark side of the Nine of Diamonds.
Interesting.
Well, and as we said, knowing your true sky, that in true sky, you're in the sign of Cancer, that would mean the Jack of Clubs is your gateway out of whatever that is. So through the knowledge and teaching knowledge and generating knowledge, and it could mean, I'm speculating, that you end up having a full-time astrology practice and you fully leave all the gore behind.
That'd be so good. I think my best days are ahead of me, but yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah. It's such a pleasure to talk with you.
Truly a pleasure. And thank you for asking us the questions. It's great.
Well, I think you guys are aligned. You do the same thing. You take
Yeah.
care of people and help
Yeah.
them on their path. Like, this is your path.
This
You're
is
way
it.
showers.
Yeah.
You're way showers. And
That's
so
what we're doing. And I'm playing the Nine of Hearts as my birth card. So you and I have that exactly in common, of being a paradigm shifter to help people transcend out of whatever it was, whatever we want to call that, to transcend out of it and see a better possibility.
Very nice.
So,
Very nice.
we
Yeah,
have
we
that
got to
in
get you
common.
guys on to the podcast, our podcast, and the Magician series, the Modern
Okay.
Magician, a
Ooh.
conversation with the Modern Magician. So
Love that.
I'll email you guys in a little bit, and we'll
Yeah.
pick a date for that.
And let's
Fantastic.
keep the conversation going offline too. I'd love to learn more from your wisdom. I feel like you have a lot of wisdom to offer.
Yeah, and I want to learn about all my cards.
We got lots to talk about.
We got a lot to talk about.
So one last question. If you had an enormous billboard that millions or even billions of people could see, what would it say and why?
Oh, that's a good one. Know thyself. That's what I would say.
Beautiful.
And where can people find more about you and your great work?
DrDani.com, DrDani.com. That is also my YouTube, where most of the fun and creative work goes on. I do a daily lunar energy short. So if you need like a quick update on what's going on with the sky today, it'll tell you the position and the phase of the moon and the aspects to the moon and what you should do for the day, what it might feel like. So a lot of people are resonating with that. I also do a twice monthly lunar forecast video by rising sign. So for the new moons, we have an eclipse coming up. If you know your true sky rising sign, you can just go to the timestamp in that video and get a very detailed sort of house specific layout of the astrological landscape for yourself. And also get the general reading. And then I'll do a live stream probably once or twice a week where we'll either podcast and meet people, or I'll have a teaching that is inspiring me and I want to get that out there. So yeah, that's
Amazing.
what I do. Yeah.
I'm so excited to learn more from you, and thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thanks for the invite, and we will definitely talk some more.
We will.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of Live from the Source with Viki and Alexander. I'm your host, Viki.
And I'm Alexander. And as always, may you live your life like it's your favorite game to play.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.